it up. Some nights I wish that my lips could build a castle. Some nights I wish they just fall off. But I still wake up, I still see your ghost. Oh Lord, I'm still not sure what I stand for. What do I stand for? What do I stand for? Most nights I don't know anymore.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the broadcast. This is Eric of the Lovely Family, once again here on Wide Awake News. Now, I do have Pastor Dowell waiting in the ranks to join me on today's show, which should, as I hope to be, an interesting discussion, about, I guess, in most basic terms, good versus evil, or good people versus not good people. I think one of the things that I definitely want to say is that, the more that I hear the opening tune, and I want to say hello to everybody on the Rents Radio Network, everyone in the chat room. If you're not in the chat room, well, jump on in there, because I'm sure with the crowd that is drawn to the chat room today, no matter which side of the fence you're on, people forge your armor, prepare for, I'm sure the chat room will be an interesting spot to be today. But for those of you on Oracle Broadcasting, those of you on Shoutcast, for those of you on the Next News Network, I don't know. I don't think we're. I don't know if we're over there today or not, but I'm pretty sure that we are. I want to welcome everybody here to the broadcast. I think listening to that song, the more that I hear the intro, and I know that they cut it back for those of you who will be angry about that, because of the last verbiage that comes through. But you guys can throw filth and flarn about that all you like. It's beyond my control. But the one key point that I want people to focus on in the intro song is really, to me, in my revelations as time goes forward, to see the ghost. Not only do I see the ghost, to me, the way I read things, the way I understand the word, the ghost is what is here and is present on earth, is the ghost that will be referred to as the Holy Spirit. And I see it moving in men more powerfully each day. And I see it gaining speed and momentum. Now, I could be corrected. Maybe Pastor Dowell agrees with me. Maybe he doesn't. But that's what I see. I definitely see that. The big thing that we want to talk about today, and then I want to jump right into it, so I'm not going to take too long bringing Pastor Dowell in. There's so many different angles and perspective that my brain is scattered into. But there are so many people who I've gotten messages that claim this person or this group of people are good people. And this people and those people, they're good people. And then another individual, which I'm going to bring up today too, because I want to get Pastor Dowell's take on it a little bit. I don't know if he's following or not, but there's a gentleman by the name of Adam Kokesh, who has his own website, his own broadcast. Yes, he can be vulgar. Yes, he can completely alienate some people and completely say things that are so barbarically radical in someone's mind. Okay, he's definitely not a silver tongue. Okay, he's the guy with a big club that just stomps in the room and starts slapping people on the head going, don't you know this? And he can be very vulgar about it. I'm not saying that I respect or endorse the way he does things in any manner, but it's the fact, is he a good person? He just got arrested. I say he was set up completely when he went to support and speak at a rally. And they targeted him. The police came right in. He laid one hand on him, and they've arrested him for felony assault, okay, on a federal officer, which federal officers don't even exist. They're agents, but we could get into that on a whole nother program. Is he a good person? Well, in my opinion, I can't say that I can't say he's a good Israelite. But is he a good individual? Well, he continues to do things that most people won't do. He continues to stick his neck out on the line for complete strangers. He continues to stand in the face of this same enemy that we all have and scream bloody murder at it, throw his body upon it. Every single activity he does is an activity or an action in a righteous cause. Does that mean he's a good person? I believe so. And to talk about things like this, I'm going to bring on Pastor Dowell from Straitway Ministries.
How you doing,
Dowell?
Eric? Yes, sir. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Shalom. Welcome to the broadcast once again.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm honored and to be back here in your presence and to be here with the listening audience this day.
I think it is. I think it's us who are being honored by the presence. But hey, that's my own thing. Let's get your perspective on what really. I mean, how do we identify what a good person is from a lukewarm to bad person?
Well, it all depends upon the principles and the character of a man and what he stands for. I'll give an example. I heard your introduction now where you was talking about Adam Kokesh. Matter of fact, what we'll do, Brother Eric, is we'll actually speak to his perspective and we'll speak to my perspective. Now, Adam Kokesh, he's very much out front and vocal, just like you said, but his agenda and his perspective is freedom and liberty for men here on this earth. At the same time, none of his messages has anything to do with the righteousness, the peace, the love, and the joy of the Holy Spirit. The Bible is not at all in his conscience or mind whatsoever at all. Now, either way it goes, whether you choose to go the secular way with Adam Kokesh or you actually choose to follow the way of the Most High, which I've definitely chosen myself, both of us have exactly the same drive, and both of us want to be free. He wants to be free secularly in this world and away from the control of the tyrannical government that has literally gone mad, that has literally just arrested him for no reason at all. I want men to be liberated and free from Satan, who controls the government and who controls all these men, and get their real true liberty, which derives in the freedom of actually keeping the commandments, the law, and the Torah, and following the way of Yah. Now, the Bible says, this is what Jesus said in Matthew 26:31. And Jesus said unto them, listen to this, all ye shall be offended because of me this night. As it is written, I will smite the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered abroad. And that's what's taking place. They all know that Adam Kokesh is gearing up for a big rally, and this is their way to make a move to go ahead and silence the shepherd. And what they have done is taken the doctrine of actually going after their head, trumping up charges on them, and making sure that his movement or whatever he has, any ideas in his mind, to actually stop the actual movement itself. Now, on my behalf right here, I usually get people attacking me as a pastor and stuff, not because I've done anybody anything wrong. I usually get attacked simply because people get offended at me because I bring up the injustices and the sin that is inside of the hearts of men. And so they have actually made an illegal move. And, of course, we have a government that you all know that they are very much illegal and they are without law. They become a bunch of outlaws. And so they want to quell the rebellion. And, of course, the Bible speaks to this, stamping out all residue and all resistance. And that is their doctrine in the hour that we're living in right now. So whether you be on the secular front, the social front, or whether you be on the religious front, their job is to stamp out all residue and to stamp out any resistance against their global agenda or whatever agenda that they have in front of them this day. So would Adam Kokesh be considered a good man? He'll be considered a good man and a patriot in the eyes of the people, but he will be considered a force, an enemy in the eyes of the government. Was Jesus Christ a good man? There was not one sin that the man ever committed. There was no sin that they could lay to his charge. So he was a good man. But in the eyes of the Jews and in the eyes of the Roman government at that time, he was a literal physical threat. He was a threat to the Jews, which actually had a control of the government at that time. And the Jews, in order to try to keep their dirty hands clean, had the Romans to crucify him, what they could not do. Same thing with me today. People don't get mad and upset at me because I tell them anything wrong. They may disagree with what I say, but the underlying motive is that they hate that the evil that is in their heart is being testified against, and so therefore they make me their enemy. So am I considered to be good or be evil? It depends on what perspective you come from and how you view things. Nobody really likes people telling them what to do and giving them laws, statutes, and commandments and instructions. And so it depends on what eyes or what prism you're seeing this thing from.
And well, I have somewhere to go with that, and I want to continue after the break. However, the break is going to be here probably in the next 30 seconds. But I want people to definitely pay attention and understand, because as we unfold into the next break, I'm going to hope that Pastor Dowell will cover more into, should we help someone like Adam Kokesh? And if you're constitutionally minded, which also ties biblically, I say yes. We'll see it right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast. Once again, this is Eric Lovely. We are on Wide Awake News here on the Rents Radio Network, Oracle Broadcasting, and hopefully the Next News Network and Shoutcast and all the other outlets that we're out there for. Now, I'm told that Charlie's going to join us in the program. I'm not sure at what point he is going to join us, but I think he's going to make an attempt from on location where he is. I know he's on the move, but I was told that he was going to join us. Now, basically what I said beforehand is, first thing we have to understand before I make this case is to talk to the people of faith. And, I'll even say that the confused Christians who read the same book should pay attention to this as well, because this is in the book that you're reading. Okay? This is supposedly the book that you're following, at least to my best understanding. Now, if you have a true understanding of history, you'll find out that in 1791, an actual constitution was finally ratified. And through actual scientific documentation, you can find the Bill of Rights, the entire theory, everything that is behind the Constitution within Deuteronomy and several other books of the Bible. The right to free, in 1871, you had the Organic Act of 1871, which is the new Constitution, the Constitution of the United States as you know it. You don't know it as the Organic Act. You know it as the Constitution of the United States. Well, the comparison is one is God's law and one is man's law. And you must understand that perspective to truly be able to tell the difference. Free will is so important, as I read within the text and the scriptures. The free will of an individual is one of the most important things that God presents. He gives you the right to go to hell if you want to. He doesn't. It is not a job. I have not ever found in Scripture is your job to take out a knife or a gun or a club and beat someone down and stick a knife to their throat and say, "You must be an Israelite." I have not seen that commandment that I must spread the word by fear and torture and destruction and terrorism and things of that nature. Because free will is quite important as I read it. And if we claim to be constitutionalists, we must understand that we must defend the rights of the person next to us, whether they agree with our beliefs or not. We touched on this in the last show with Charlie. We must physically do or take action to defend their right. Why? Because it's the right that God gave them. And so this is my understanding. This is the way that because I tell you, I'm self-educated on it. I didn't agree with the Christians when I was in a Christian church. I didn't agree with the Baptists, the Catholics, the Methodists, none of them. I had the luxury of deprogramming myself by a complete disbelief of what they were. I would read what they told me to read, and they would tell me what they said it meant, and I would say, but that's not what it says. So they didn't like me. So I was alienated, and I came to the Straitway understanding, or am coming to a much closer understanding of the Straitway by being exposed now, but I had the pleasure of already understanding that everybody that came before Straitway was already incorrect. I already knew it in my mind that it wasn't what actually was said in the book. So by doing that, I mean, if we think about the Constitution, we understand where it comes from and what it means. I mean, are we not obligated in some way, whether they are secularists or not, aren't we not obligated to maintain the original Constitution and defend their rights and stick up for these people and go to bat for these people, even though they don't believe the same way we do? Or am I completely off base on this?
Well, Eric, it has to do with perspective, and here's the perspective. I have to present the biblical viewpoint and standpoint in order for people to understand the correct way, the way that the Creator universe intended for this to be as far as those who follow His laws, statutes, and commandments. It has to do with the kingdom of this world. No doubt, just like you had stated before, there's the kingdom of Yah, then there's the kingdom of man. The kingdom of man, which falls under man, Babylon, and the authority of all secular governments in this world. Then there's the kingdom of Yah. We both know that these two kingdoms are diametrically opposed to each other. Now, the kingdom of Yah is the one that, if you are an Israelite, you obey His laws, statutes, and commandments above all laws, statutes, and commandments in this world, especially any laws that has been made by any man whatsoever at all that are in contradiction or direct contradiction of the commandments of the Most High Yah. Now, in John 18:36, Jesus said, and He answered, and this is what He said to Pilate in reference to the Jews. He said, my kingdom is not of this world. And so He's establishing where His kingdom is. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight. Now, what we need to do is ask ourselves, whose servants are we? Because over in Romans the sixth chapter, it clearly states, we need to know that whomsoever you yield your members' service to obey, His servants ye are to whom you obey. And we ought to be praying that we live a quiet and peaceable life in this life. But if we cannot live a quiet and peaceable life in this life, then the Bible also speaks to us having self-preservation and defense for our families and ourselves. But Jesus stated that if my kingdom was of this world, then were my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews, but now is my kingdom not of hence. So we as Israelites, we understand this vital point right here. Number one, we are in exile to our Yah, to our Father, and we are not in our homeland. We are away from our land. So therefore His laws, His statutes, and His commandments do not rule in this land.
All right, we're going to pick up right back after this quick break, ladies and gentlemen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast. I want to welcome everybody on all of the different functions and facets of where you are listening to us, from Shoutcast, the Rinse Radio Network, to whatever other plug-in or whatever you are using. As we were leaving with Pastor Dowell at the music, he was going in a direction, so we're going to have him pick up right where he left off.
As I was stating before, we have to understand that if we become Israelites and we decide to follow the principles of the Bible, because no doubt about it, that is the supreme law of the land, the supreme law in our hearts, the supreme law of the kingdom. And we understand that we're in exile to our Father and we're not in our homeland, because if you're without the land, then you're without our heritage, you're out of culture, and you discontinued from it. So therefore, when you come in captivity to another land, you actually inherited a whole different culture and a whole different set of rules, laws, and regulations. Now, throughout the angles of time, there's been many kingdoms rise up that would actually take the best laws that will suit them through conquest from another kingdom, and that's what has happened when these people over here adopted the laws and then they actually wrote them into the Constitution. Now, the question still remains, should we help or should we defend anyone who is standing for what we call a righteous cause? Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. So what we need to do is understand who is a friend, because the Bible also speaks that there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. So anyone that is actually joined with you in like precious mind, like precious faith, and they're trying to preserve and trying to do the things that are necessary in order to make sure that your home and your goods are in peace, they will be considered a friend because they are not against you and neither do they oppose you. Now, should we actually be going out here and actually fighting the government? That depends on if this government is our king, or are we subject to this kingdom right here. I actually don't think that we should actually be going out there and actually fighting against the government whatsoever at all, unless the government infringe upon us as a people, being in exile from this land. Now, do we have laws and rules and regulations that we have to support and we have to live by while being in captivity? captivity. That's the one thing that people are missing more than anything. And that's the reason why we always feel like we're raped, robbed, murdered, and pillaged to death here in this country, because we know what righteousness is. These people could care less what righteousness is, and it's coming to the point, and it's coming to the head, where we're actually going to have to actually stand up to defend ourselves in this life in order to preserve what we call either our life or the lives of the people that are coming on after us. Now, in 2 Timothy 2:4 says that no man that warreth a warfare, or no man that warreth entangle himself with the affairs of his life, that he may please him who have chosen him to be a good soldier. So again, the emphasis is put up on the kingdom first. The kingdom first. Now, to sum it all up, if they're perpetuating evils and injustice against you, and you see that you have no recourse or no redress or grievance to actually petition your government whatsoever at all, then you would have to actually stand for what is right on your own 2 feet. If somebody asks you to actually go to bat or go to fight or battle with them, first of all, it needs to be established what kingdom are we fighting for, and who are we living for, and what kingdom do we represent. Again, God has a kingdom, it's his kingdom. Man has a kingdom, which consists of governments and man and themselves, who makes the laws, the rules, and regulations. They may use biblical principles to try to establish righteous laws, rules, and regulations in order to govern mankind. But the truth is, they could care less about righteous principles to govern mankind. They only care about themselves and how that they can oppress and rule over us, since we are a different people than the people of this land.
And, and I guess the point where, and I'm going to throw some more things in there, and hopefully we can continue this discussion. I know there's another break coming up here shortly, but the idea, okay, where the Israelites are scattered amongst the world, and they are to dwell in other lands and other nations. And I remember it says that we must be good stewards within that nation. And now we are the original nation that we were in, that was created, that only existed for 75 years. And a lot of people really, we could talk about, there's a lot to talk about in hidden history, from the Indians to Hebrews landing in the East Coast and so forth. We can talk in depth about that. But if we are in the idea that the original 75-year bracket that contained God's law is the nation, and we are to be good stewards of that nation, this is where a lot of people start to talk about we are compelled to do something. That we shouldn't just abandon the other individuals of this nation that don't believe like we do, it's hard to make heads or tail out of this. I guess being good stewards of the land, wouldn't that continue to build the case towards compelling us to do something if it is based on the right principle? I mean, I'm definitely making that statement. Just because you want to go out and do this, or you want to rub green jello on your body and roll around in the dirt, whatever it is, it's the principles behind which, if the right to freedom of religion and freedom of choice, if the reason why I bring this up too is because, Pastor, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I want to send you an email that the government is now going out to 501(c) churches. All you Christians out there, pay attention. There is a new doctrine coming your way, and it is the doctrine of, I'm pretty sure that the name of it is Acts, but the whole idea of the government is here by divine right, and no matter what government it is created by God, okay, which is a lie, that you must obey it, and to rebel against the government, okay, is to rebel against God, and you must give unto Caesar what belongs to him. This is the brand new doctrine. You guys can go out and you can start to read. It's not completely brand new, but if you go out and research it, this is the emphasis that's coming. Remember all those Christian pastors and preachers that everybody saw on the news, that everybody gleaned over and didn't notice that they were all hired into that shield where they started working with other private industry they were allowed to be armed. They have actual license and certification from the government and so on and so forth. Well, these pastors have now been given a doctrine that all Christians should bow down and do whatever the government tells them, because that government has the divine right to be here because it was created by God, and that you should obey, and to rebel against the government is to rebel against God.
Well, I actually agree with that statement 100%. To rebel against government is to rebel against God. But it depends on what God are people defining. Like I stated before, government believes that it's God itself. An Israelite doesn't believe that government is God. As a matter of fact, the word steward that you had used earlier is a very good word to actually include in this particular subject right here, because a steward is someone who is a chamberlain or someone to be a manager over household affairs. And it's the case of a free man or a free woman that is actually entrusted on this land to actually govern their own particular behavior. So we're stewards of the mystery of God first, or the mystery of Yah, which is the creator of the universe. And when the government is going around passing laws demanding people that they should actually obey government because government is God, that's when it's time for us as a people to rise up in resistance and join in like mind with those who understand the principles of the Creator and those who will want to try to usurp authority over us and try to take advantage over us, because moreover, it is required in a steward that a man be found faithful. And that's what we need to be doing. Now, most people get Romans 13 all screwed up and thinking that it has to do with us obeying government. Again, I state government is Babylon, and Babylon is man, and man is making these rules, not the creator of the universe. So, no, I don't believe that we should actually be obeying government that is going around trying to play God. But if people believe that the God is the government, they're going to pick and choose a side. Now, I don't have to worry about that 501c3 law, because we're not a 501c3 church and never will be a 501c3 church, so therefore we're not subject to those laws. So if they want to try to come and govern and rule over us above the law of Yah, which we actually submit to, then we're going to have some problems. We're going to have some conflict here, because our commandments, our Bible teaches us that we should live quiet and peaceful life. Our Bible teaches us that we should not go out and have any problems with anybody unless their laws begin to be imposed upon us, and it's starting to actually go against the laws of the supreme law of the creator universe, then we're going to have problems. So therefore, most people hate to hear this word, but therefore armed resistance would be the mode and the method that we need as a means of self-preservation, since Jesus did not tell Peter to get rid of his sword, but just to put his sword back up in his place only for the time being. So therefore, I don't believe government is God. So therefore, they can pass all the laws they want, but I will not be obeying any law that go against the supreme creator of the universe.
We'll be right back after this last break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast as we roll into the last segment. I definitely think we were going somewhere, and people have to understand that if you look at and I'm going to go biblical on you, but I'm going to go constitutionally on you, because the Constitution really, people look at it where it says nature of nature's God, of your creation. It's about the reason why both sides can claim the rights, okay, is because the individuals who wrote it down in the book said that those rights are provided out of the good book to everyone, heathen or Israelite alike. Now, you both can see the way. Now, granted, the heathen would, if he followed the right things, would eventually become the Israelite through the idea of, the stranger and the law of the stranger. And I said that on purpose because I hope you go over to Straitway truth.com and find the episode or the ministry that he gave where Pastor Dowell talks about the law of the stranger. And it was a great, great piece of work. I still talk about it and use it today. So I want people to go over and take a look at that. And maybe that'll entice you to check out the website and spend some time over there learning some things. Because I know I go there and I learn things, okay? So just so you know. And so what we're talking about here is kind of trying to find the wrap-up, because what does it take to be a good person? What does it take to be a good individual? Now, I will also, for those of you who are curious, I would like Pastor Dowell to summarize, in the end also, not only what it takes to be a good individual, because lots of people can be a good individual. You can go out of your way not to hurt people. You can be generous. You can do all these things and be a good individual. Does that mean you're going to the kingdom of heaven? Does that mean that you are a good Israelite? No. Okay, that just means you're a good individual. It means you're not working evil, okay? But in your actions of being a good person, you are a good individual. It does not mean you are of faith and you are a worthy individual to go on to heaven. However, don't let me make that judgment, because there's some guy out there who may overrule me and he may decide you get to go anyway. So I'm not going to say that you don't. I'm going to tell you that the book prescribes it that you don't. But if it is of his mind, he can do anything he wants. He could have Adolf Hitler sitting next to me on the dinner table. I don't have any authority on that issue. But hopefully, Pastor Dowell, in these last 8-9 minutes can help wrap up this question about good people and taking action. That action is required to be good. You can't be good if you aren't actually doing something, taking action.
There is an old statement that was made by a wise man quite some time ago, that evil only triumphs when good men do nothing. I like to substitute the word good with the word righteous, because the Bible teaches us that there is none good but one, and that is the creator of the universe, the Father himself. But the Bible does always say that Noah found grace, and he was a righteous man. Abraham was a righteous man, and there's much to speak about those who are righteous. In order to be righteous, you have to be able to submit yourself to a law and a standard of rules and regulations that's higher than the laws of man in the government or secular government we know today. So in order for a man to be what we call good or righteous, he would have to submit to the one that made him and created him. And that is what will make a man or a woman what you would call good, because they would actually be following the one who is good, and that would make them good, that would make them righteous, because they're following in his vein what he says. Now, since he is the creator of all things and his law is supreme, that's the only way that a man can be righteous. Now, when we get to the end of this thing, like in the book of Revelations, it clearly says in Revelation 13:9, he that have an ear, let him hear. And then it says, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity, and he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. And here's the patience of the saints. Now, it's not talking about people who actually defend themselves in self-preservation, but I'm saying all that to get to this point of the next verse. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, which had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. That's what this thing is all about. This thing is all about worship. This thing is all about who you're going to submit to. Again, government is Babylon, government is man, government is the devil, government is the Satan who's trying to force people to submit and worship them, because their laws are actually against the supreme law of the land, which is the Torah, the law, statutes, and commandments. And he's going to deceive many people on this earth by these miracles. And the Bible says in Revelation 13:15, and he that had power to give life unto the image of the beast, and the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many that, here it is again, that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And the whole thing is this, and he causeth all. Notice, he's going to make a law. The word cause is that he's going to do something to commit, he's going to do something to compel people to actually submit themselves freely upon fear of death or pain of death. Either way it goes, he's going to try to get them to use their own free will to choose to follow this beast and this false prophet. And it says, and he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, say that he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So there's three different things that man could actually take to receive the mark. And here's wisdom, and here's him that have understanding, that count the number of the beast, for the number of a man. And his number is 603,6. So anytime that we have government that's trying to force laws upon the people and trying to tell them that government is God and God is government, they are unrighteous. So therefore they are not to be obeyed. Only a good man, if I can go back to using the term good again, are those who submit to the righteous laws already established by the King of the universe. That is what makes a man good, and that's what makes him right. And for a good man to sit by and to do nothing is the only to allow evil to triumph.
Well, I hope everybody was listening and paying attention, and I'm going to throw my 2 cents in on the end. For those of you who do not believe that this is about worship, you see, that's what it is. They have all the money in the world. They have every possible thing. They have every floozy they could buy. They have every naked hideaway island, yacht cruiser, airplane, trinket toy, race car, bucket of water. They got everything they could possibly. They could go on a free-for-all joy hunt every day of the week for the rest of their life and die and not have played with half of their crap. Do you understand? They don't. That isn't their aphrodisiac. It's one of their after. That is what power is. When people say power, these people are power hungry. What is power? It is your ability to hold something over someone else and force them to do your bidding. That is worship. Okay? Now, let me bring this home. So for all those of you who are secular and non-religious, non-faith-based, non-whatever, you go into your courtroom right now. We're not talking about the end game that pastors are. We're talking about right now. Every piece of documentation that you fill out asking the court to do something, you should start getting copies of those. Because I will tell you, on that document, it says, I pray to this court. Now, it says it in black and white. And you put your name on it and then ask them for information. You are committing an act of prayer to the court, to the government itself, for them to do something for you or for them to give you information. Okay? Now, people, we want to talk about law, and there isn't many times that I get in depth with law. But simply interacting with the British Common Law Court, their documents in and of itself claim deity status. Now, I don't care if you don't like that. I don't care if you've never been told that before. I don't care if you've never been exposed to it. Go look at the documentation. Why do you think on a marriage license, okay, something that was given, the right given by God for you to marry and to procreate. Now let's look at a marriage license. And it says the merger, okay, it talks about not a union, okay, not a marriage, it talks about a merger. It's a corporate merger, and that the product of that merger belongs to who? Does it belong to God? Does it belong to the family? No, it belongs to the state. The state puts itself in a position of deity. And people really need to understand that. That is the largest problem that I have with the government, is that it claims the power to be God. Pastor Dowell, any closing thoughts?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, I do. And as I would agree with that 100% every single word you say, when it's all said and done, in Revelation 14:8 it says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, the great city. Because she made, look at this, no discrimination whatsoever at all. All nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image and received his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of Yah, which is poured out without mixture into a cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And their smoke of their torment ascended up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night. Here it is again, key, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. So it's all about worship. It's all about, and you are correct in your statement when you say they already own everything. They own the world. They own the money in this world. They own the water in this world. They own everything in this world. But the one thing they do not own is your free will to pick and choose who you're going to serve, who you're going to worship. And they're doing whatever they can to bring causes to force you to worship.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Pastor Dowell from StraitwayTruth.com. Please visit the website. Check him out on YouTube. Up next, Karen Quinn Tostada with the one and only Sheriff Mack.
Do you see the soldiers that are out today to brush the dust with bulletproof vests away? It's ironic, at times like this you pray, but a bomb blew the mosque up yesterday. There's bombs on the buses, bikes, roads, inside your market, your shops, your clothes. My dad, he's got a lot of fear, I know, but enough pride inside not to let that show. My brother had a book he would hold with pride, a little red cover with a broken spine on the back. He hand wrote a quote inside, when the rich wage war, it's the poor who die. Meanwhile, the leader just talks away, stuttering and mumbling for nightly news to replay. The rest of the world watching at the end of the day, both scared and angry, like what did he say?
Uh-oh, look at him looking.